Word, word. Welcome to This Is Not Information, episode 5. We are going to try to go live today. Well, we are going live today. So, for now, you can check us out on YouTube. We're gonna repost links as we go along. Um, my name is Paulie Rhyme. We got Meg back there with he said he got to be in and out. So we got Meg back there with the Red Man poster, Bernadette, all the way from Brooklyn. Kristen is in the DMV, and Maurice. That's Maurice. We can't see his name right now. He blacked out, but that's Maurice right there. And
Blacked
Kawasaki,
out.
right? Kawasaki, right?
I'm in I'm in Moto Ozawa right now. But yeah,
Uh,
Tokyo, Kanto
Here we go,
area.
Tokyo, and Meg is back. So today we gonna try to keep the episode. As you hear that click, I got a timer. I'm doing a timer. We're gonna try to keep the episode a little bit short. Normally go for like 90 minutes, or normally go for like 2 hours, but then we edit it. But today we're going to try to stick with 60 minutes just to see how that goes. Thanks for the one person who's tuned in.
Who that is?
I don't know. Shout yourself out. It says live.
Yes,
Um,
live. Identify yourself.
and then, yeah, if you got any questions, ask us questions. So our first topic is fat phobia, which I've been kind of reading shortly about. But this topic was brought up by Bernadette. So Bernadette, you want to jump this off?
Yeah, so I wanted us to talk about fat phobia because I've noticed in my community, particularly the Black community, how much of an impact fat phobia has on, especially like my generation. The way in which I've noticed, for example, my community, particularly the Black community, how much of an impact. You might have to mute yourself. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I just noticed how much of an impact it has on like my community. So I have a friend, a very close friend of mine who, is very invested in fat phobia because she gets it a lot more due to her size. And she did a class when I was still in undergrad, on fat phobia and how, for example, people who are on the bigger spectrum are shamed, for having the body size that they do. Oftentimes fatness or obesity is linked to being seen as unhealthy, unproductive. You're seen as lazy. People often say that, you should work out, and commenting on your body size, as if, your body is for somebody else's display or kind of thing. I also notice it a lot with fat jokes. I know a lot of people love making jokes, and jokes is a great way to, have people laugh and entertain each other and everything. But I was part of a conversation. I wasn't really like spearheading it, but I was interested in this conversation about how jokes are still harmful, and fat jokes were one of the center points of it, because even though it is joking, it still has a lot of harmful remnants in it. And so in Fatphobia, for example, like fatness is like the butt of a joke. So if somebody wants to get at you, sometimes they go for you for your weight. Also, fatness leads to a lot of insecurities. People just not learning how to love themselves, and oftentimes hurting themselves to get to this standard, this body image that is a standard, that is not necessarily feasible, may actually make you more unhealthy. And as for another podcast that I'm in, we're also thinking about fat phobia in a larger context, like in K-pop and the entertainment industry. So that's kind of where I was thinking about fat phobia and where we can have this conversation. So I wanted to know from you all, like, how do you see fat phobia in your life? Do you see as this problem? When you think of fat phobia, what do you think of? As well as what can we do as individuals to call it out when we see it?
Who's up? All right, Maurice.
All right. Can y'all hear me? Okay. First off, Happy New Year to all you all. Peace to all of our friends and supporters around the world. So I'll preface this with saying a couple things about myself. So um, I'm cis hetero, black male living in Tokyo, but I am from the American South. Particularly, I claim College Park, GA, Montgomery, Alabama, Atlanta metro area. So growing up, in terms of how fat phobia has shaped my life, is I would draw a parallel, and also you could say it has an origin inside white supremacy. So for some people, especially people of African or Black descent, however you want to call it, we get steeped in white supremacy so deeply that we don't even realize that we're suffering from it, or that we're actually exhibiting the qualities that that aim to harm and oppress us. So, for example, like Bernie had mentioned before, um, uh, jokes. Now, I don't know about you all, but like growing up, like if you get John on, we play the dozens. That's a go to. Like attacking someone's weight, or your mama is so fat. Your mama is something, right? But your mama's so fat is something that was just it's always a good standby to really get it cracking if somebody was gonna get at you. Um, when I got out of that environment, when I started to grow up and I got exposed to other people in terms of how they express themselves, or reflected upon their closest family member. So, for example, hearing like female relatives growing up talk about how they wanted to look a certain way, or even people warning me not to eat too much or not to do certain things because you don't want to get fat, right? And then it becomes something that's super normalized. You don't even realize once you get out of that situation that you have been perpetuating and carrying that stuff on for so long. In preparation for this, I was reading up on the origins of how fat phobia came to be such a prevalent thing, especially in American society, American culture. And by extension, when you say American society and culture, you're talking about the American empire at large. So, to tie it back to what Bernie was saying, K-pop has its origins in American imperialism, plastic surgery and all of that stuff. So that's something that we can get into later, but I mean, it's kind of related. But the book I was reading up on is Fear in the Black Body. Um, it's a historiographical work. Unlike, and like the author says, it's unlike any other thing that's addressed fat phobia. When we talk about where did these ideas come from, because if you go back to like Comedic or traditions, if you go even back to the Renaissance, you have the arabesque. You have the mother figure. You can go back even maybe about several decades ago with like Marilyn Monroe. The average size of the woman that was considered the most beautiful woman in the world, she's a plus size model today. Well, how did that happen? How did that come about? And anybody that's listening, and for those of you that are sharing this time with me on the podcast, like I highly recommend to check it out. I read probably about a quarter through. But I got in the first part. It was like, okay, well, a lot of this is based in, it comes out of America. It's a very specific thing to America, and America, by extension, when it extends its culture around the world, other countries and other cultures take that on. So, having the obsession of being thin, having the obsession with having a certain shape, and then shaming those who don't fit that um, revised ideal. Largely, there's a lot of ties with anti-black racism, colonialism, and by extension, colonialism. When you take over somebody, you make them believe the same thing that you believe. Shout out to John Henry Clark. So your God and your belief system is supposed to look like the oppressor. So you have a lot of people who colonize uh, what is now called the United States of America. They impose these ideals on women, and women, by extension, perpetuate these systems of looking a certain way, being a Christian, godlike woman who serves her male partner. So, yeah. Who wants to go next? Okay, I'll mute myself.
Yeah, yeah, I don't mind going next. I was curious of which direction we were going to approach this conversation, because it is historical, as Maurice pointed out. and, you know, cultural. And there's also a mass culture hegemony that comes with kind of imperialism and the way that we view body types. I know, for example, before I hit puberty back in the 90s, you know, supermodels and the ideal standards of American beauty were like Pamela Anderson, Cindy Crawford. And so before I hit puberty and my body started telling me what I like, I really thought I was attracted to these people because that was what was to be expected. It wasn't until after puberty that my body started telling me that, you know, Phoenicia looks a little bit more appealing to me. And it really kind of, you know, helped punctuate the idea that these American beauty standards of blonde hair, blue eyes, Barbie doll size waist is just a little bit absurd. But with that said, I'm not really well read on the concept of fat phobia or how it's described as a postmodern intersectional movement or compounding oppression. I'm not familiar too much with the body positive movement and fat acceptance and the like. It's not that I don't care. It's just that it's kind of in my periphery and kind of low on my list of priorities. Not to say that, you know, I don't acknowledge the oppressions that come with it and the punching down that comes with fat jokes. And I know I'm definitely guilty of fat phobia to a degree as well. And I'd probably say all of us are. I do think that we know that the poorer you are, the more likely you are to have poor nutrition. We know that working full-time jobs means you're less likely to prepare your own meals. We know that the culture of food in the United States is not conducive to the unrealistic beauty standards presented to us by the media and mass culture. And we know, like Bernie said, because of those unrealistic beauty standards, we tend to judge heavier people or bigger people as lazy, unhealthy, incapable, ugly, you know, the whole nine. But we also know that in the United States, we're approaching like 50% of the population being considered overweight by a variety of different health standards and metrics. Child obesity is on the rise. And I do think that it's interesting to ask where the preference for thinness comes. And I actually downloaded the book by Sabrina Strings that Maurice pointed out. You know, colonialism, imperialism, racism, pop culture, mass culture hegemony, shaping our ideas of beauty and how that evolves. Because Pamela Anderson is not necessarily the vibe anymore. We've crossed over to plastic surgery, and in a way, Black bodies are become fetishized again for some of the things that are more inherent to our to those body types. So there's definitely, you know, racism and a bunch of imperialistic, colonialist underpinnings that come with the conditions of beauty standards. But, you know, human beings are getting bigger than ever. And I think a big part of that has to do with the food and agriculture industry and what we have access to. And I think that we all know the misinformation that is perpetuated by corporations, agribusiness, and even going back to things like the food pyramid, sugar, and whatever nefarious motherfuckers are trying to do to sell you pumpkin spice flavored bubblegum. It's really insidious, and it really contributes to the changing of the body types. And I think we see that first and foremost in America because we're kind of on the cutting edge of that type of you know, industry and capitalism, and it's gross. But I'm certainly guilty of fat phobia. I imagine we all are. Part of my spirituality and politics is to assist in the liberation of all beings and all peoples. And I don't want to contribute to fat phobia in a way that prevents people from being unhappy, or excuse me, prevents people from being happy with their appearance or make their lives more difficult. But I certainly don't really give a damn about, you know, modeling or advertising, representing plus size people. I think that's good, but it's really not a fight that I really care to battle. I think representation is dope, and it's good that people are looking at heavier people and acknowledging that they're beautiful. I personally am attracted to, I'm also cis hetero, and I'm attracted to a variety of different body types. So I'm definitely not that fat phobic in that way. But I do believe that there's a lot of diet misinformation, lack of nutrition, access to nutrition, and there's a downright immoral and immoral workings that are happening within the food industry. I know that Black people die of, poor nutrition all the time. And it's not necessarily lack of access to food, but it's a misunderstanding of nutrition. When heavy people die, we ask like, yo, is it the salt that got him too? Salt pretty much got my dad. And body positivity is dope. And I know that it's not a big or primary indicator for general health, but I think it's important to be mindful when championing some things. And, I'm not exactly sure how much that ties into fat phobia. I know that, again, as I said, being big is not an indication of health necessarily, but a lot of times it is symptomatic of problems that will occur because of that weight and because of your eating habits. So I just think it's important to be mindful. I try not to punch down on heavier people. In looking up this topic, I went into a rabbit hole of this body positivity and fat acceptance. And I mean, there's like, people are proud to call themselves like super fat, infinite fat. And I just don't really know anything about that. And I'm not sure if my fight is on that platform either. But, I'm really looking forward to hear what all of you have to say.
Did you say infinite fat?
Yeah. I mean, that's like a term that they use for like really large people. And I think it's one, that they created as a body positive affirmation to themselves and kind of being cool for that. And that's dope to me. But man, like I see like, family members getting big and it contributes to health problems. I see myself when I'm bigger than I ever been right now, it contributes to health problems. And I just want to make sure that we're being mindful of that while we're looking at this body positivity, because where like Maurice placed, more traditional Black body types before processed sugar and these things, nobody was as big as we are getting now. The body just didn't function like that. If you look at, circuses, the fat man or whatever, it's not even close to some of the people you'll see on your trips to Walmart these days. And being big is a thing, and Black body types are a thing, bigger hips, all types of things. But man, like we are as a people eating trash, and it contributes to poor health sometimes. So be mindful is all I really have to say, and let people be happy with their bodies and stop judging people for the way that they look, man. I mean, it's fun with the homies sometimes. I like personally to kind of get fat shamed by the homies because it keeps me on point. That comes from an athletic mind state, I suppose, but I feel like I need to be able to run a mile and pull myself up if I'm falling off a cliff or if I need to punch somebody in the face. So, that type of fat phobia that I get from my homies is actually just, I think they're more or less just looking out for me in a way. And so it's this nuance. I don't know. And I'll stop there because I've been talking for about 5 minutes. So
for sure. Kristen, you say you want to jump in? Then I'm gonna get yelled at after this.
Why will you get yelled at?
I got some comments.
Oh, great. So, by the way, I've never heard of pumpkin spice bubblegum.
So what? The pumpkin spice?
Not yet. We need a Master Peak on there. We need a Black billionaire to market that.
Oh, I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, like, listen, fresh pumpkin spice, make it yourself is good, but pumpkin spice bubblegum, nah. Anyway, so fat phobia. I feel as though America especially is very contradictory in the whole concept of fat phobia, because our diet mainly consists of fatty foods, sugary foods, oily foods, a lot of processed foods, very convenient foods that don't have much nutrition. But at the same time, like at the epicenter, people have the gall to be fat phobic. And it's just very interesting because it's like you're marketing all of these, like basically just really non-nutritious foods, but yet you expect people to have like a similar body type to that of a Victoria's Secret model. So I just find that very interesting. So in regards to fat phobia, I just feel like body shaming in general is a bad way to go. I don't know how guys are, but especially for women, I feel like body shaming, even if it's quote unquote trying to help somebody, is not supportive. It just makes the person feel defeated, and it makes them feel, it makes them not feel good about themselves. And like, So in the same way that someone who's severely obese would not like enjoy being called like a fatty or like a fat ass or like other derogatory terms, someone who's like anorexic is not going to want to be called a stick or like, oh, you have no hips, et cetera, et cetera. There's no way to make someone feel like they're supported in their journey to becoming healthier by doing that. Just psychologically, that doesn't make sense. Secondly, the whole BMI structure, like you guys said, is pretty colonialistic, and it's racist because in general, from an anthropological point of view, Black people, if you're, you know, a person of Black descent, tend to have heavier bone masses. So your bone density is going to be heavier than, let's say, a Caucasian or an Asian person's. So it's funny, when I was in high school and we actually had to weigh ourselves for gym class, there would be white women who would be pretty much the same size as me, but I would end up weighing about 5 or 7 pounds like heavier than them. And, you know, that made me feel very subconscious, like, oh, like, am I fat? Like, even though we're the exact same size. But when I did more research and, you know, because I have like health professionals in my family, I learned that like a lot of body composition differences can also attribute to differences in how much you weigh, and things like that. So at that time, I just thought like, oh, I must be like really fat, or like most of my body is fat, when actually like I just had heavier bones. So the BMI thing is ridiculous. Plus, another example is like someone who is overweight could actually weigh the same as much as a person with a lot denser muscle mass. So someone who literally like lifts heavy weights could literally weigh the same as somebody who's like 220, 230. So BMI, it's a little tricky, like to depend on that scale alone to measure health. I don't really feel like that's a good indication of health. So Bernadette actually sent a link. I think it was a YouTube link on that professor. Her last name is Bacon, I believe. I think it was Susan Bacon or something, but I'll double check. And, you know, a lot of people, when they hear health at every size, like they want to say like, no, that doesn't make sense. You can't be healthy at every size. So before I even judged it, I was just like, let me actually listen to the podcast and see what they're saying. What her whole concept was is that like people should strive to be healthy at every size. So regardless as if you're my size, if you're Paul's size, Mega size, Bernie size, Maurice's size, someone who's 250, someone who's 90 pounds, like you should strive to just be a healthier person. And that doesn't come from like your size, like looking at your size and trying to be another size. And that also doesn't include trying to match the same weight as someone that you look up to or someone that you think is like the epitome of perfection. It's about feeling good and also having proper nutritional education. So I can tell you right now that usually people instinctively can tell when their body feels its best. Like your body just naturally works like that. So, I mean, I'll give a little TMI, but right now I'm like 145, which is, and I'm five. I'm five.
Good, you're good right there.
Yeah, I'm 5'6", so it's normal. But I do feel my best at 138 or so because my legs are a little thinner and I can like run faster. Because I used to be an athlete when I was younger, so like when I was about maybe 5 or 6 pounds lighter, like I felt my best. But at 145, I still feel pretty good, you know. So and the thing is, like, I don't really try to eat super clean because I'll just go slightly into veganism here. Like, there's a lot of bias when it comes to looking at people's diets. It's like, oh, like if you aren't a vegan, then obviously you're unhealthy. And if you don't eat these certain types of foods, then you're unhealthy. Like, but at the same time, there's plenty of research to show that like going on an all vegan diet can sometimes not be the best. So what I try to do is I just try to eat things that I know are good for my body and make me feel good, not just some trendy diet that makes you feel morally superior to somebody else. So to my point, like fat phobia is not good because like you shouldn't discern somebody's worth and somebody's intellectual capabilities and how someone can attribute to society just based on their weight alone. I know a lot of people who are much heavier than me who have very prominent roles at their jobs and they're doing great. So let's not focus so much on size.
I'm typing. Okay. We in the chat too. So y'all too intellectual. Man, I was gonna try to be ignorant, man. Y'all can't be ignorant with y'all.
Be ignorant, bro. Be
It's too
ignorant.
much. I was so I guess my take on it is that I always been big. So probably until like we said, the husky. I wore the husky clothes. You know what I'm saying? I just been I was a chubby kid. I was all that baby fat. You know what I'm saying? With the baby hair, I was both. And then like when I got into puberty, same kind of thing. Like puberty, I kind of thinned out a little bit, but then because of football, they want you to gain weight. So then you got to eat. So I started drinking beer and chicken at night. Started lifting like twice, 3 times a day. And then like right now I'm like 2 something. And so I have a lot. I don't have a lot, but I have health problems. And a lot of it is because one, I was supposed to lose the weight, which I didn't know after college, because when you gain so much weight, I gained like 35 pounds in like 3 months or something like that. And then just lifting and eating. And then because I gained the weight for a purpose and my muscle mass changed, if you ever look at sumo, it's the same kind of concept. Like they gain all this weight, but when they're finished being sumo wrestlers, they're supposed to lose a certain amount of weight. They may not lose it all, but they lose it. But I didn't know that education, right? My coach, nobody told me that. So I just kept the weight, and then I got married. I got happy in love, started eating more, and I got bigger. And then when I got to Japan, I started having like high blood pressure and the sugar, all that stuff still get to me. Yeah, I'm a double dad bod. Yes. So like, I go to the doctor, but I do feel like we have this conversation, I think, and particularly in Japan, I see it with my daughter, because she is definitely bigger. We try not to use the word bigger. Like I try to use taller now, because I was just like, felt like bad telling her she was big. I wasn't like, you're not big, you tall, you know what I'm saying? Like, but she got hips. She was like, she got all that. And it's just natural. Her body shape is different. And we even went to the term of telling her, like, to tell people, I'm black, my body shape is different. My body, I'm not gonna be like skinny like y'all. I got hips, I got a butt, I got thighs, all that stuff. And that's where, like, when Kristen was saying that, that's where I feel like some of it is that ideal that people got different body shapes. And so I think that we need to be a little bit more conscious about that. And I don't know. I feel like your mama joke. We was just talking about your mama jokes. Like what was that? A couple of days ago, I was talking to Maya about it. And she was like, what are you talking about? People's mamas? Like, yep. And you can't talk about everybody's mama because you'll get into a fight. So I stayed away from those jokes. But I guess that's where I feel. I think like some people, I've definitely been on the other side, on both sides. I've been on the joke side because I think sometimes we joke with our pain, and we, you know what I'm saying? We tend to take that into something, make it something different. So I can't say I've never made them jokes. I mean, we even like I'm from Cleveland, and Cleveland was considered like one of the biggest cities in the United States. And we was even calling people Cleveland. Like, oh, she from Cleveland or he from Cleveland. You know what I mean? Like referring to their wedding. I'm like, man, we gotta stop doing that. So I'm still learning, but the racism part is for real, because when you think about how essentially our ancestors were bred. I won't say we were bred, but our ancestors were bred for working, and they were taking some of the biggest and strong. That's who they was looking for, and then they was putting these people together, and so naturally we're gonna be bigger people. And I think when you can exercise, it just comes with education, right? So, but Bernie, you want to wrap it up because we trying to be legit this time.
I could try. Yeah. That's everything that everybody had touched on in different ways were some of the things that I was thinking about when I was thinking about like fat phobia. also to like, I know Mega was saying like, he doesn't really like see or care necessarily about like representation. For me, I do care, because when I'm trying to shop for clothes, it's really hard to find clothes that match, because I'm always like, a lot of like stores that are I don't want to say trendy, but like the ones that have like, better looking clothes, they tend to cater towards those who are smaller, skinnier, the fit people or whatever. And you can even see that in models, versus like if you want to, how should I put it? It's more about like, as somebody who's on the bigger side, I often have to choose between clothes that are like tight fitting, but they look cool, but they may not look cool for me, versus like comfortable clothes because it will actually fit my body. And I'm short, y'all. Like, I'm not even 5 feet. So that in and of itself is a problem. And I don't think I'm that big, to the point where like I can't find any clothes, but it's just being overweight, for example, puts me in a category where it makes it difficult for me to just even find anything to wear or go about my day life. And also, I wanted to like bring up like how we interchangeably use the terms fat, overweight, chubby, thick, and things like that. Because you could call somebody who's overweight like slightly overweight. They have like a little bit of a pouch, and you like call them fat. And so oftentimes we're using these like different words interchangeably, and they have different connotations, and that would impact a person's self-esteem. For me, I'm also all about body positivity, because I also see how it links to mental health, as somebody who has been struggling with her weight, even when she was a wrestler, throughout her entire life, and having a mom who's always like, yeah, like, I don't want you to die because you're getting so big. And it's like, I may not die from having a little bit of like fat on my body. And I think I agree that it goes to like lack of education. So I definitely recommend for everybody, if you don't know much about fat phobia, please research on it. Watch as many videos as you can, read, because I think it's even though it's not like one of the big three, race, class, and gender, it definitely intersects all of them. It's a component of all of them, and it impacts everybody's life, especially if you're an American. And I think it's something that we all have to be mindful of. Like, your jokes may seem harmful to you, but it may actually impact somebody else. I've seen people in my grade who, those mama jokes, your mama so fat jokes, really took a toll on them, even though everybody's playing around. And it cuts with mental health. So I think it's really important that we as individuals, we are mindful of fat phobia and understand that there is not necessarily a huge connection between fatness and unhealthiness, because you can be skinny and unhealthy. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I'm really happy that we had this conversation, and maybe we will touch on it again later on. But just as a, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to also maybe next time we can talk about, or at some point talk about the resources, because like I know exactly, especially for Japan, it's really like people are really it's both. It's like super thin, and it's not even super big. It's like bigger than the average size. Not fitting into that cookie cutter. Like super hard to find clothes. Like even for my wife who works with athletes, and they're just naturally taller and bigger people because they beach volleyball players. They have tough times, dealing with this idea that they're naturally just bigger, and then if they put on more weight or they get more muscular, they don't get viewed in the same light. So there are some, challenges, I think. And then we, so yeah, coming with some resources, or even we can post some resources in the Facebook group or the YouTube. We've been getting one person every in and out. So, but yeah, I think we should just move on to the next topic. Anyone would like to intro that? Maurice, you still there? All I keep seeing is MS. I don't see your face. Where you at, bro? No, but is he in the chat? Okay. Well, yeah, let's just move on to the next one, because we so the next topic is, I guess, black billionaires / black millionaires. And the premise of this is there's a recent you're muted. Okay, hold on one second. This live, y'all gonna have to deal with it. Oh, here you go. Why are you muted? Say you on air. I don't know why you muted.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yep. You muted.
Okay, good. Nah, I was trying to hit the dang thing, man. It won't. Now I'm sounding like Boomhauer now. I hit the damn button, man. It didn't do anything. So whatever. Okay, yeah, keep going, man.
Oh no, I was gonna let you do it. So we were talking about the topic as far as black billionaires, and there was that recent prompted from Master P and Baron Davis. They put together a group to buy Reebok,
Yeah.
and so getting ideals on. We touched on capitalism. We typically touch on capitalism, but do you want to expand on the which way we or how we want to start this? I don't really know. I'm kind of pro-capitalist, so I'm saying yes. No, but yeah,
Well,
you want
I
to add
think
some more detail?
yeah. So I mean, this is a story that often comes up in leftist circles as well as people who are quote unquote pro-black. Um, the debate if and when um, black so-called capitalism can deliver or give, uh, and I'm talking from an American standpoint, black liberation. So, I shout out to Push Black. I listen to this podcast, and they always ask. I think we talked about it before. What is liberation to you? What does black liberation look like? And a lot of people, they go back and forth about just having material things. And, in light of Kwanzaa just concluding, like one of the principles that stuck with me, even as a child, in elementary school, is self-determination. It's like, okay, well, what does that mean? Because as a child, you know, and I think I can speak for many people out there, we don't have that much self-determination or autonomy. And for a black person growing up in the center of an empire that is one of the biggest and strongest that the world has ever seen, what does it mean to actually be free? What does it mean to be liberated, to move as you please, to live as you please? So a lot of people are looking at this Reebok deal and say, okay, well, hey, if we get a piece of this of this big American pie, by controlling one of the preeminent brands known to the world, maybe that will afford black people some freedom of movement as well as self-determination. But on the flip side, and I want to hear what you all think about this, and I won't say anything further unless somebody wants me to. Do we actually need black billionaires to deliver black liberation to the masses? Or this story, is it a feel-good story because it represents actual steps towards liberation, or just another feel-good story like, yeah, score one for the underdog? So y'all have at it.
Go ahead, Mega. I know you're right now. Like that fire.
I mean, actually, I don't really have much to say about this. If I haven't said a million times before. I basically, I understand that it's dope when black people have success, man. I think it's cool. Master P is one of the great American success stories, and I think that he's just really phenomenal at clawing his way from out the mud into an ivory tower. And I can't really diss that, because I know that a lot of people who are struggling have that same goal. For a lot of people, liberation is an individual kind of prospect, and they need to, they realize that you get more free when you have more time, and you have more time with money, and that's cool, man. I'm also just not one to champion oppressors that look like us. I mean, I don't see Reebok as some great American institution or an achievement to have. I don't think that anybody works to become a billionaire without leaving a trail of blood. And I don't want to shit on Master P, because I did that enough in my Keep It Real hip hop days back in 1997. Master P's a great American success story. Power to him. I don't care, dog. I I don't care about Black people being in seats of power that are not going to really liberate all people.
Can I ask this question? I'm gonna just jump on what Maury said. Is there a difference, right? And I think, because I think about this, right? Like, I was just watching this show on minimalism, right? Basically, it's people who get rich and then they be like, I got too much stuff, I need to get less stuff. And it seems like you got to get rich to get to this point where you have this idea that you don't need all this stuff. So that's one angle. But another angle is there a difference between things historically like Black Wall Street? So we think about Tulsa, Oklahoma, we think about these areas, and even some people are using these historical things to promote new things that are, hyper neoliberal capitalism, But what is there a point where collectively we got together, pooled our resources, and it was a positive thing? And is there something to say, can we do that in this modern day? I guess that would be my question. To where it's not negative.
I think collectively. Oh, should I go, or
Bernie was about to say something? She opened her mouth.
No, I was just no. I was just gonna say we don't necessarily need to be rich or a billionaire to necessarily do that. I think Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street is a great thing that happened during that time. But as of right now, 2021, I don't think necessarily in order for us to pull our resources together, we need a Black millionaire to pioneer that. And is it possible? I think there have been many communities who are trying to do it. I personally do think that we do need some sort of money in order to get there, but I don't think that we need somebody who is trying to be the next Amazon, creative Amazon, in order to pioneer some sort of community collective building of resources and wealth with each other, or liberation with each other. That's the initial thought that I had. But Mega, I know you wanted to go in.
Getting together with people, organizing for the betterment for large groups of people is a great thing. That's what we should be working to do. So having money in order to do that is important. Angela Davis wouldn't have been able to do all the organizing and the political work that she did if she wasn't making a certain amount of money to be able to rent 2 apartments and to have the time to do that. So having money is important. But what you're talking about, like a mass of capitalists coming together for the betterment of liberating what? Black people? I tell you, I have a difficult time when we try to create solidarity based upon just the idea of Black people coming together, because we all have different ideas of liberation. And a lot of people who are out for money, it's a very American thing to think individualistically. I don't have many examples of Black millionaires really working towards the betterment of Black people in a regard that is impressive to me. We had a Black president. We've got in the cities where there's Black governors and Black mayors. We still have the same systemic problems in our society that affect the largest swath of the working class, be they Black, brown, or whatever. And I just haven't seen anything that points to the idea that we're going to be liberated. We're going to liberate all of our people through the mechanism of capitalism. In fact, I just find that it creates more oppressors. So when Master P is running Reebok, it would be dope if he set up those, the company here and hired a bunch of Black people and put them on a board. But instead, all that labor is going to be shipped out to India or wherever they make the shoes, and they're going to get paid poorly. It's just not my thing. I just don't believe in that. My tendency is for collective organization from us, from the people that don't have money. And that's where the liberation comes from, in my opinion.
What you think, Christian?
I do kind of agree that Black billionaires are a cool concept. I mean, just because it is cool to see like someone from your ethnic background like make it, and like to see them like in a powerful position. but it mainly has to do with what you do with the funds that you have accrued, and if you're trying to give back to your community. Like, it is cool, I guess, that Master P, who is a legend, might take over Reebok. But like Mega said, like, is he going to hire like Black people like as his like sub-level CEOs? I don't know what you would call those, like people under you that are also bosses. I don't know, like high executives or something like that, to also help him run Reebok and also like employ Black workers. But the fact of the matter is, with capitalism, that usually doesn't happen because you're trying to get the cheapest price for a product made. Um, and as of late, it's just, I know there are a few people that have given back. Controversially, Tyler Perry has definitely given back to the community. Oprah Winfrey built that school in South Africa, but she is kind of problematic as well. She's pretty problematic. Michael Jordan is very problematic for many reasons. So the whole idea of Black billionaires is cool, but in my mind right now, I just can't really see someone that I'm like entirely looking up to. Now, actually, I don't know if you guys heard this, but there is a small town. I think it's called like Sugar Rush or Sugar Mill. It's like one of those names. It's like a really small town. And it's in like one of those southern states. I know because I'm a part of their Facebook group, and they're trying to like get the auction for the little town. And I'm like, why am I even a part of this group? I don't have money to like bid for this town. But I think it would be really cool, just like in Tulsa, Oklahoma, if they could actually get this small town, which has its own little sugar mill, so they can like produce their own sugar. They have a school and they have a police department. And that's pretty much all it consists of besides the residents. And I would love to just see like a community built by Black people who do have a certain amount of wealth, and amount of wealth that is able to make change. Um, and really just make a community that can stand by itself, like that doesn't need outside like financial support. Billionaires are okay, but truthfully, like I feel like people who are more in the Akakeek County type of class are a little bit more productive for our community. You can Google Akakeek County in Maryland. It's like one of the richest counties in the state, and it's like majority Black. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I always think about that because I don't know. Like, I agree with Bernie. I mean, I don't think we need billionaires. A billion is a lot. Like, that's just like, it's like you could be a millionaire and you could give, you could put the rest of that money to good use. But I do think it just reminds me always of Fred Hampton when he talked about you need the education. So before you get the money or before you get anything, you need to be educated. You need some training. You need to know what you're using it for, or are you just going to replace the people who were oppressing you? You're just going to become an oppressor. So in that regard, it also makes me think that maybe in the system, and not, I don't know, like in that system, it's just not, in the capitalist system, it's not going to work. You got to almost go somewhere else. And you got to think about that. But yeah, it's that's a hard one. But that's where, like, we was talking about this before about like when leftists get a certain amount of popularity, they tend to start like getting, dismissed, like you making too much money, or and I feel that way of somebody like a Master P, because Master P came from nothing, like he came, and he built it. I mean, he learned a lot from E40. He learned a lot from, a lot of different people, and everything that he tried to do, similar to Tyler Perry. Like, he made his own movies, he has his own shoes, his own clothing. He employed lots of people, had his own beat production, and so maybe it will be different. But then he also had gold ceilings in his house, so maybe not. He did.
Come on, Doc. Are you making an argument that a capitalist that gets enough money will turn into a leftist and help people?
It's possible. I mean, with the right education, you know what I'm saying? With the right,
you don't you don't become a billionaire if you have the right education about capitalism. There's no way.
He could be the spook up by the door. You know what I'm saying? It could be, you know. I got hope. But no, yeah, I don't know. All right, so I got that's it. Where's Maurice? Maurice still here? He's still with us? I do. Hey man, I do want to talk about this because I do still feel like there's a leftist. I'm not into savior mentality, so I'm not saying like one leftist, right? But there needs to be a wave of leftists that's just about it, like just make it fly. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't know. I'm feeling like that needs to happen. Like,
we're talking about anarcho-libertarianism.
You know, like just to tap into the social media wave. Like, if you can get a leftist with like 10 million followers, you know what I'm saying, on Twitter, and still be legit, right? Not be considered a sellout. Because I think once they hit a certain popularity, people just say, "Oh, they sold out, they grifting," you know. Megan, you're not feeling that. I see your face.
I'm not. I mean, I feel kind of. The reason I'm being quiet is because we're moving from.
Yeah, we're moving away from that.
I think that might be a conversation for another time.
Yeah.
But
Can we
there's a lot of people with a lot of followers who are doing a lot of good work, and I just don't think that there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Google's unionizing, the workers are unionizing. Shout out to them.
You sound like Doom right now, fam. So I think we're gonna move on. All right, so I got my timer. I'm trying to be cool with my timer. I literally love this thing. Actually, I just want y'all to know that my timer does a lot for my attention. All right, so this is the last 10 minutes of the episode. And Maurice, you still with us? Yeah, bro. We wanted out. So I know that there are a few people. I don't know. Does everybody know who Doom is? That's a question. That's my question. All right. So we're gonna expand it. So we're gonna talk about Doom. Really, just people. Lots of people died lately. Health problems, stuff like that. The end of 2020 was rough. As far as like, celebrities or well-known people, and if you got your homies, also people. But one big thing that happened last week, which actually happened at Halloween, but then it was just announced last week, is that MF Doom, Zev Love X from KMD, passed, and it really hit my timeline crazy. Like, my Twitter was going crazy. My Twitter still is going crazy. Facebook, Clubhouse, all that. Everyone's talking about Doom right now. And if you don't know who he is, he was a producer, rapper, business owner, thinker. I would say he was a thinker, and he really used hip hop in the culture as a vehicle to get his message across. He was called the super villain. So his whole persona was based or his second persona, or second, was it his second persona? I can't. He got so many. One of his personas was based on Dr. Doom from Fantastic Four. And then Victor Vaughn, also two of his personas, because he had Victor Vaughn too. So he was really influential to a lot of people. But if you don't know who he is, maybe you should check him out. But Mega, I don't know where Maurice went. Mega, you want to? Oh, here you go. You want to speak on that?
Man, yeah, I've been kind of devastated by that news. What's up, Bernadette?
Bernie says she's
your
a
mic.
Doom fan.
No, your mic.
Oh, the mic. Oh, yeah, you got to go with the joint.
Oh, I need the microphone?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't know, man. Like, my timeline was also oddly unified. I don't use Twitter much, but everything was absolutely about MF Doom, and I thought that was really dope. I've been a fan of MF Doom since probably about 98, 97, when I first started hearing probably 98, 99, when I first started hearing his music. And I was very much a part of that underground reaction to the Telecommunications Act that just went towards, underground hip hop music. And Doom was a champion in that regard. Widely considered one of the most brilliant and vibrant minds, one of the best writers. And when he passed, man, it was like losing an uncle. And it was odd in that regard. I had so many people who know my kind of enjoyment and adoration for MF Doom hit me up like they heard my uncle died, or my brother died or something, asking to see if I was okay. And that was dope, because I wasn't. I woke up the first day of the new year. The first thing I looked at was my phone, and I saw messages from people asking if I heard. And it's just sad, man. I don't know what he passed from, but what is just a brilliant mind and a wonderful life that impacted so many people. And I've said for years that Doom is one of my top 5, top 10 favorite MCs, and I'm glad that he was so prolific with his output. He's truly one of a kind. And other than that, man, like 2020, I lost Kobe, I lost Doom, and those are 2 of my longtime favorite, heroes. And so it was sad. I still am sad. I've had Doom on repeat since I heard the news. I have Doom on repeat all the time. I've got multiple pictures of Doom in my studio. And, I hope his family finds peace. And that's about all I really got.
Word up.
In regards to that.
Maurice, you there? I see thumbnails. You kind of there. Check. Yeah, I mean, I can just echo that. I know y'all don't know about Doom, but I felt that way. Like, and I also like Shabba Do for me was like something, just in terms of like not my first intro to hip hop, but a major intro to hip hop for me was breaking, because I was really into dancing. I had the Jerry curl, I had my whole thing. I was breaking, I had the cardboard. You take it, you took the cardboard, put it in your front yard, and you just like break dance all day. And I remember my grandma, she had a little like after hour spot in Brooklyn, and that was my dream. I was like, go see grandma, go break dance in Brooklyn. You know what I mean? And so, are you hungry?
Can't nobody else.
And so, yeah, I mean, Doom definitely. I mean, from KMD, like Gas Face, when I was growing up, that was the joint, and Peach Fuzz and Black Bastards, all that. I think we loved them when no one else was on that. And I even remember my friend getting my dude Vic. He got a lot of heat for liking Third Base because they was white. They're like, why you like the white boys? You know what I'm saying? You need to listen to this. He was like, they dope, and Surge was ill. And, I like Prime Minister P. Nice, and they brought in, KMD. They was legit, They was in that whole, Prince Paul, Native Tongue, that's when you think about people who was really trying to push it on a lyrical standpoint, and be legit, or you get beat up, because they was beating people up back then. You wasn't just jumping on stage. I know, Bernie. Well, I gotta be violent. I know, Bernie, but sometimes. But and then he just reinvented himself. I think like when you look at people who can reinvent themselves in a time of like hyper, like capitalism or the bling era, and Doom just came like, and then he had Curious, because I like Curious. He had Curious on that record, and I was like, wow, like this man, he just did it. And he would rock with just underground cats. He rock anywhere. So it's hard. I do hate that people are trying to sell his stuff for like thousands of dollars right now. It's horrible. They out there just the vultures, man. Can't stand it. Just keep the stuff, man. Stop playing. Keep the records, because because Bernie, he had a lot of records, but they weren't mass produced. So now they're looking at it like, oh, you can't get this record no more, or you can't. Lots of stuff sold out, like shoes and shirts and vinyl. People selling this stuff for thousands of dollars. They just try to price gouge right now, and it's kind of terrible. Basically, let people mourn. But yeah. Anybody else? We got 1 minute. Ooh, look at that. We want 60. I feel like we need like 5 hours though. Any other things? Any shouts outs? Any updates? Where's Maurice? Maurice is back. All right, here we go. Maurice, say something. I don't think he's gonna say nothing. We hear some. Huh? Oh, there you go. Speak on it. That's it. And then what? That makes man. That's amazing.
Put up a fist doom, man. All caps.
That's right.
I know I can't hear none of y'all right now.
Can you say, hold on, I'm about to type something in the chat. You can't hear us. We can hear you though. Hold on, he said he backstage. People are evil. Yes, Kristen, people are evil. No, do we got any sweat? So hot. We got any way we want to end this? Or we just gonna end it? What y'all think? Anybody want to say something? Any updates? We'll be back in 2 weeks. Maurice just disappeared. This is hilarious. Between Mega and his many walls of art. Your house is ill, bro. We need to take a tour of Mega's house.
Yes.
One of these days. And Maurice in and out like a robbery. Yeah, I think we're gonna end this. Oh yeah, one question. Go for
y'all. It. Yes. Have y'all ever heard of the Mongolian rock band, The Who?
The Who?
No, The Who. Literally, it's called The Who.
Like who? There it is.
Like The Who, as in HU, not Who as in WHO.
You know that song? Who? There was two of them. Whoop and then Hoop or something like that. No. I forget you so young. I forget. So what happened with this Mongolian rock band?
No, they're so dope. They infuse rock and roll, American rock and roll, with their Mongolian throat singing, and they use you know, Kristen. Yes, I love them. I found them last week at like 3:00 in the morning, and I've been listening to them ever since. So I want you all to check it out. I could give you a link. On Facebook, but anybody who's watching this, I highly recommend you check it out. I think they're really dope for using their own traditional music and their instruments and infusing it with Western style rock and roll. I think that's really great, especially if you think about like cultural exchange. They're super dope. I love the guys. They're really, really funny. Some of them have families, so it's really great seeing them, incorporate who they are within their music. As well as one of our
to your leader.
Maurice, wait.
All right, there I am.
As well as I just want to highlight Millette. Millette has her own YouTube channel. It's a journaling YouTube channel. So I highly encourage everybody to subscribe and watch her videos. They're great. She's trying to be a journalist, so I'll give her all the support ever. She's also great. So I just wanted to put that in a shout out for Millette Millington.
Word up. All right, Maurice, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear y'all now.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
No? All right. Yes.
Great. Fantastic. Rest in power to Doom, if I don't get to say anything else. Yeah, that's all I want to say. I don't even know what y'all talking about now. Right. Shout out to Millicent. What was her name?
Millette Millington.
Millington. Miss Millington. Yes, okay.
Yes, thank you for your support. We're going to get you a laptop, man. Word. All right, so this is the end. This is Not Information Podcast, episode 5, live. Maybe we will try this again another time. I love the setup. Y'all look clear as what? Versus
what did the 5 fingers say to the face?
Smack.